Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the most amazing authors that we have in a book coming out called Sacred Spaces. This is volume 2, you guys. It's called Subtle Shifts for Mind, Body, and Home Transformation. And before I introduce these amazing women to you, I am going to want to say a ginormous thank you to our lead author, Colleen Avis. Colleen, we wouldn't be here without you. You have brought together a stellar group of author experts for this book, and I am so grateful and honored to be guiding this and leading the book with you. This one's, we're changing the world, and I'm happy to be in your world, Colleen. So who do I have with me today? Ann Enyart is a retired math teacher living a crunchy life, tutoring, making jewelry and natural products for the home and skincare. We've got Dr. Maria Cantor with us. She's the owner of Urogynecology Center of Northern Virginia and McLean Cosmetic Gynecology, where they address women's intimate healthcare needs. And Virginie Linder is a Chopra total well-being coach who empowers women facing a life transition. Ladies, welcome. I'm happy to have you here today.
Good to be here.
All right, so Ann, you're going to start this party off today. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, my chapter is called Owning Your Beauty. It's not the mirror, it's your mind that chooses, not the mirror, beautiful girl. And I'm kind of new to this healing with the emotions kind of thing. I have for a long time been trying to heal myself with fibromyalgia and pain and things like that, but I didn't realize how much the mind had to do with everything. And through a series of healing kinds of things that I have been doing, I did a handwriting analysis, and it says you have a strong desire to move forward, but there's something from your past that is you're bringing forward and it's slowing you down. And I tried to figure out what that was. And then one day I was passing by my mirror, and I looked at my mirror and I said, whoa, I look good. And I could have I just couldn't even believe it. I mean, just even for that thought to pop in my mind. And I did not realize that I despised how I looked. And when I went through all of that and I healed my mind of it, and I figured out that it wasn't what everybody else thought of me, it was what I thought of me. So you are your own worst critic, and people can praise you up and down, but you'll just ignore that. Or if people praise you and then one person cuts you down, then you kind of listen only to that. And it all resides within you to be able to know, how you feel about yourself. And then the world does not matter. It doesn't matter what the world does. And then you feel good about yourself. And then as I discussed this thing with several of my friends, I was surprised because they were just gorgeous women. And they're like, oh my goodness, you're going to have to tell me your secret. I don't understand. And you could have knocked me over with a feather, because they were just gorgeous. And I just wanted to get this chapter out, because I think that's a thing that most women really have a problem with, is owning their own beauty and just thinking about what other people think, which is not always true. So I really wanted to write this for everybody else and my friends and people I don't know yet.
Beautiful topic. And mirror work. If you've looked into all the different varieties of mirror work you can do, they're out there, you guys. So powerful, like soul deep powerful. Anything else you want to say about that? Like, how has that felt to you from a standpoint of transformation? Anything else you want to say?
I believe it was the final step of self-acceptance. So I had it was not a good childhood. And I ignored it for years and I ran away from it. And I had to be doing 2 or 3 things at once so that my mind couldn't think. And then I started working on my emotions and my mind and not just my body. And I learned that that was affecting it. And I did so many other things, but that was kind of the final piece, was me totally accepting myself physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and all of those kinds of things. So it's been amazing.
Yeah, amazing with a capital A for sure. It's good
All
stuff.
caps.
And thank you so much for being here. Maria, you are next up. Let's hear about your amazing chapter. Make sure you unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. There we go.
Now we got you. Hey.
So my chapter is called Sacred Space of a Woman, and how changing the space around me changed my life. And it in the chapter, I talk a little bit about my marriage and more so my divorce. And I think for many women, divorce is a life-changing moment. It's a time where you might take a pause and look at yourself introspectively, look at where you live, look at the choices you're making, and kind of reflect before you move forward. And in my chapter, my practice is talking a lot more about self-care after divorce. And part of doing that for me not only included taking a time out from dating, but taking time to just take really good care of myself. So treating myself to a nice dinner here and there, buying myself a special little present, exercising, eating healthy, all of those wonderful things. But also, I wanted to look at the space around me, the space where I lived, because it was a space where I had built a home with another person. And now that other person wasn't there anymore. And it didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like someone else's home. And it actually took me a really long time to figure out that getting rid of even just furniture and replacing it with different furniture could open up my home to me, where I could feel like I could breathe again. And I thought that was such a special thing. And it took me so long to figure that out that I wanted to share that. In my chapter, I also talk about the importance of self-care regarding sexual health. So I think that just because you're going through a divorce, maybe you're taking a time out from dating, doesn't mean that sex has to stop. And so I talk a little bit about the benefits of sex, benefits of orgasm, and just taking care of yourself entirely and not just, one aspect or the other.
Yes, and oh man, I resonated with a lot of what you had to say, especially it took me a long time too to get my house back, so to speak. But even it took a long time to figure out that I needed to do that. And then once I figured out I needed to do it, it takes a while. I still feel like 7 years later, not fully complete in the house. Like there's still little corners and crevices and maybe a piece of furniture or two that I haven't completely, come to like total closure on. It's time to do another round of decluttering. But it can be a process like that, right? Sometimes years.
Yes, and it took me years too. I didn't even recognize, I was just so buried in not thinking about it and just getting through each day and raising my son almost by myself, that I didn't even pay attention to what was going on around me. And then one day I just realized how heavy I felt coming home to all of this big dark furniture that I didn't even pick. I didn't even like it in the first place. And it never felt like me. And I thought, well, why don't I just start all over? And it was the pandemic. So I donated a lot of my furniture, gave it away, and then sat in an empty house with no furniture for a while because you couldn't get any furniture for a while. So I slept on a mattress on the floor and cardboard boxes. And then I looked through, stores to see if there was something that I really liked that appealed to me, and kind of figured it out and put it together piece by piece until I felt like it was mine.
Yeah, you're making me think a little bit about, just the times of our lives where it's a re-identifying and
Mhm.
figuring out who you are again. And there's
Mhm.
so many layers that can happen with this. And but I do very much appreciate you and all three of you really sharing your vulnerable stories, like just stepping up and taking that challenge on that I gave you to really share some of the personal stuff. So thank you all for doing that. And you guys, what else is in this book is their master teachings on these different aspects of sacred space. So there's so many gifts in this book that you all have given. So thank you all for doing that. Maria, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Virginie, how about you? Tell us about your chapter.
Yeah, actually, my story resonates, and my chapter resonates with Maria's chapter, because my story in the chapter begins the day I say, no more, I want to divorce. The day I decided that's over. And so the title of my chapter is Self-Care is Not Selfish. Discipline your days to create ultimate well-being. Because I know by experience that if you don't take care of yourself, well, it's going to be a mess. And you won't be able to manage all you have to manage. And of course, the first person who's going to be badly treated will be yourself. And so if you want to help others, if you want to support, especially I was, with a single mom, then after the divorce with my 2 kids, you cannot take care of them if you don't take care of yourself first. So, but it took me years to learn that. And now that through my studies and my own life experience, I understood that. I really want to share that with women, because I think as women, we especially have this kind of twisted thinking that we need to take care of everybody else before ourselves. And so I think that's one of the messages of my chapter, is just empowering women to take care of them first. And that's not selfish. It's for the benefit of themselves and all the people around them. And
Necessary. And in case you guys missed the word, it wasn't discipline, it was blissipin. Blissipin. Did I get that right? Blissipin. There we go. There's an extra L in there. Blissipin. I love that word. I love making words up. So Virginie, do you remember a time when it felt like bliss to you? Like one of those first times? What was that moment?
I think that's the moment I truly reconnected to my core, to my true self. And that's a moment of silence, of course. That's a moment when you meditate. And that's why meditation is my favorite discipline to teach, because I know that if you practice meditation on a regular basis, you will reconnect to your true self and your true power. And meditation was I will say, my first deep true bliss. And discipline, I like this word too, because we know that to have a practice like meditation, you need to repeat it. It's like when you learn how to play football or whatever, you need to practice to be better at it. But I don't like the idea of discipline, because it suggests that you should do it, you have to do it. But if you combine this with bliss, it means that you choose to do it, and you know it's good for you, and you have this feeling of bliss. So that's, discipline is my word now. I use it whenever I can.
It's a perfect word, and it's a powerful idea too. Our practices are life-changing when they become, I'll now say, blissciplines. And I have used the word discipline quite a lot. In martial arts, we use it a lot because it's the practice that pushes us to the mastery of, even if you can use that word. But I love that word. Virginie, thank you so much for being here today. Okay, so I'm going to move to Maria for this next question. I'm coming around to all of you for this one, but Maria, what to you makes a space sacred?
So it's interesting that you asked that, because when I talk about sacred space of a woman, I'm also a urogynecologist. So I feel like not only is your surrounding sacred, but there's a sacred space of a woman also. And not just like her internal aspects, her beliefs, the way she takes care of her children, her family, her business, whatever the case may be. But I just feel like there's something about a woman that's a sacred space also. But for me, in this particular chapter, what I was more getting to was the sacred space of my surroundings. And, to me, it is a surrounding that brings peace. And, to Virginia's point, when you talk about the sacred space of a woman, maybe it's a sacred space of a person. And when you're in that moment of meditation where you feel that blissfulness, that could be a sacred space as well. But to me, sacred space is a place where you feel like you can breathe, you can let your guard down, you feel at peace, and you kind of want to protect it.
I love that you added that. You become protective of it because it's so nourishing.
That's right.
Yes, I love that. Love, love, love. Okay, Virginie, how about you? What to you makes a space sacred?
I would say that's true. That's a place I would want to protect for sure. And when I say the word sacred space, I always relate it to respect. That's why it's linked to protection. And I think I can be very proprietary. I think that's a word where I want to really protect a safe space for me and also for others. And so a safe space is really a place, well, also for me, it's a place where no one can enter instead of yourself. Only you can go to this secret space. This true you is your sacred space, actually. And no one can enter it. No one can hurt you there. And yeah. I don't know if I'm clear.
I can almost hear all of you thinking about it. Like, yeah, there's so many ways that we can talk about this. And it absolutely turns me on to hear all of the way. I mean, our collaborative books are exactly that, because we need all the voices. We need all the ways to talk about sacred space, right? So Anne, what about you?
I totally resonate with Virginie on the sacred space, because for me, with my chapter and like that final piece, sacred space to me is your own internal feelings, what you feel about yourself, to not let others be involved in that. It's just your own. I used to always seek outside for everybody else. I would do for everybody else. And I was just the last on the list. And, I'd invite everybody's opinions into what, how I felt about myself. But it wasn't just their opinions. It was what I thought their opinions were, that was kind of warped in my mind also. And so sacred space for me that I absolutely protect, and I just am really, it's fairly new and I'm really enjoying, is my own space inside myself, that I don't let others in to influence me. So I just keep my own space and how I feel about myself, and I don't allow others' opinions or what I think their opinions are to enter in.
You're making me think of boundaries, of course. And
I had none before.
Boundary setting is a part of sacred space, right? I think probably we would all agree that that's part of like the process of creating that. And again, I'm loving hearing how all of you are talking about it. Sacred spaces, for me, there's internal and external. And you're making me think of just a funny one. Like, some of my spaces in my home are sacred, and you better not be all cluttery in my sacred space. because like, don't drop your underwear on my sacred floor because, right? Like, so when you live with other people, there's this thing where sometimes you have to share some of your sacred external spaces and you have to educate people like, listen, we keep this in a way so that we can breathe. You literally take a deeper breath in the space and you look around. Those flowers behind me are one of the ways I create sacred spaces in my rooms, right? There's so many ways. And I can't wait for everybody to read this book for that reason. There's so many ways to think about this. And of course, we're talking about a holistic approach. And it gets me to the next thing that I want to ask all of you. So, Virginie, for you this time first, we're taking a holistic approach in all of our titles from Brave Healer Productions. That's part of what I do over here, is to help people understand even what that means. But on your personal journey, why has it been important for you to take a holistic approach to your healing, to your journey, to your life? What does that holistic thing mean to you?
Well, body, mind, and spirit. That's for me the definition. I think from childhood, I needed to take care of my mind. And then with my first marriage, I clearly needed to take care of my body because of what I lived during this marriage. I needed to heal my body as well, and my mind, my monkey mind. And actually this happened through working on my soul, and taking care of my soul took care of my body and my mind. So hence for me, the importance of meditation, again, because, when you meditate, your main connection at first is your soul, but then you realize that it's your mind and your body. And we were talking about bliss earlier regarding meditation, but I just want to say also that when you meditate, you don't meditate for the moment of your meditation. You meditate for what will happen outside of the time of your meditation, and for the benefits. And because I want to say that during meditation, sometimes it's not blissful. Sometimes it can be very difficult. And sometimes when I meditate, at first, when I had all this healing work that I needed to do, I would be, my head was twirling and twisting, and my body was moving, and I was sweating and sweating and sweating. So that's when I really understood that healing process was holistic. That was not only your soul, and that when you connect to your true self, your soul, you connect to your body and your mind. And that's holistic, and that's magic, and that's discipline.
I love it. Yes, I love that way of thinking about it too. You're right, it's not always easy, is it? And I love what you said about, you're meditating not really for the in the moment. You're meditating for the after effects that could continue through
Yes.
your whole life, Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, because people would tend to think, well, I can't meditate because I have too many thoughts. Well, that's already one thing. But yeah, meditation is not only bliss. You have to, I think people need to hear that. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean you do a bad at meditation. It means it's working, actually.
Exactly. It means it's working. And we have to allow some of the not so pleasant sensation, feeling, emotion to surface, to heal.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I like that way of looking at it as an opportunity. Sometimes I'll be having a bad day and be like, "Ooh, yes, let's go." Like, let me get to this next layer. Like I know it now, right? You have to get to know it so that we can talk like this. I want our
Yes.
listeners to understand that this is a conversation that can happen because we've been to those places and dug into those layers. And sometimes it's not that easy in the beginning. But that's
Yeah.
why you have amazing coaches, you guys. So, okay. So, Anne, how about you on this question of holistic in your own personal journey? Why has that been important?
Well, at first, I was just trying to heal my health with exercise and food and things like that. And then I did not realize how much that your mind and the monkey mind and how you felt about yourself and how your emotions and your limiting beliefs and those kinds of things really entered in. And so when I started going through that, like my health actually got better. And I like what you said, Virginie, about, I'm going to rephrase it, but sometimes it kind of hurts. So I got to tell you, I call it stirring up the muck. And, if you're swimming through a lake and you got a whole bunch of muck coming up, you open up your eyes, that's going to hurt. But then eventually it settles down and you don't have so much stuff. So it's like you lean in to it when you have some uncomfortableness, when you don't want to face some things. That's when I realize that that's when I have to face it. So holistically, I've got to do, or for me, it's exercise, it's food, it's friends, it's like Maria said, your surroundings and decluttering and, emotions, what you're thinking about. So it's like everything. You can't just take one area and expect to completely heal. There's so many things to do that. So holistically, you've just got to look at a lot of areas and not expect it to be easy and lean in through some difficulties. And so, yeah, that's what's worked for me.
And I think one of the fun things is if you focus on one area, it does relate to all the others too. So looking for those places you can work on, it will end up helping out in the other areas. Something you said about the muck, I just have to give my friend Linda, an author friend, a shout out. She wrote a book called The Muck, Magic, and the Miracles. And that word muck you don't hear very often. So it's all of it. It's the muck and the miracles, right?
Country girl here.
Yes. Maria, how about you? I know that your practice is very holistic. How has that played out in your personal journey? Why has that been important for you? And you're muted, girl.
Thank you. So for me, I agree with what's been said about self-care. I think is like the most obvious. It's just people don't always know what self-care means exactly. And so I think we naturally gravitate towards, okay, diet, exercise, let's go out, let's see some friends. And they don't necessarily take care of themselves on the inside, like with mindfulness and meditation. And, then I add my own little spin in here, not only your environment, but also your sexual health. And I think that just because you're in a breakup, whether it's a divorce or whatever relationship it is, and you're taking a break, doesn't mean you have to take a break from sexual health. And I think that's a really important part of self-care. People don't always recognize that orgasms are actually really good for you. There are reasons why in the world we have orgasms, and part of it's probably to drive procreation, but also it's really good for you. It releases endorphins that boost your mood and help calm anxiety. It can also help alleviate pain, believe it or not. It can make you feel good, it can make you feel at peace. And so, I try and incorporate all of those things into my own self-care. But I think for me, the last thing that I recognized in my journey was my environment. And that's why I kind of brought that up in my chapter and why it was so important to me, because I thought, gosh, I've been living with this furniture for 10 years. 10 years, I should get rid of it. And so I guess for me, there's multiple components that make it holistic. So your internal mindfulness, meditation, taking care of yourself, exercise, going to see your doctor for your routine exams, that's self-care and that's self-love. but also taking care of your surroundings and taking care of your health.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, and orgasms are good for you, you guys.
They're really
Like,
good. I'm a fan.
I love it. Okay, let's wrap up today with this one last question, and this is really geared towards helping our listeners today. And Virginie, I'm coming back to you. We have people in all ends of the spectrum of struggle, especially over these last couple of years. What piece of advice would you give someone who might just be stepping on the healing path to give them an easy entry point? What do you want them to know today?
You are not alone. And there are plenty of wonderful healers and therapists and coaches who are here for you to support your transition, to support your whatever you're feeling right now. Doesn't define you. You are enough, and we are here to support you, to guide you. So don't stay in that place, and reach out and talk about what you are experiencing, and you got this. Someone will help you.
I love
And you
that.
don't have to be fixed because you're not broken. It's just, just a stop on the road, and then you will go on your journey, and someone will guide you.
I love that. You're definitely not alone, especially in a community of people who have gotten together in this Sacred Spaces book. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the community in a minute. Anne, how about you? What do you want to tell our listeners today? What do you want them to know?
Well, in my particular experience, I ran away from the huge emotions that I had, and it took me a while to figure it out. So I would say if you feel some uncomfortableness, lean in and look at it. And if it feels too big for you to, accept, sometimes you've got all of these things just coming in so strong, and then you don't want to face it. But if you just don't bring those feelings in and you just look at it, kind of like you're like a science experiment where you're just looking like, okay, now where's that coming from? And so you don't have to feel all of it and bring it in and let it, be the storm. You can just kind of look at the storm and say, okay, where's that coming from? And so definitely do not avoid things, because what happens is kind of like the muck story. It's going to kind of, you press it down and layers are going to come down upon it. And then like an angry toddler, it's going to want attention eventually. And it's just going to keep stronger and stronger until you give it attention. So lean in and look at it. And like Virginie said, you are not alone, and you are not the only person that this has happened to. You'd be surprised at how many people have these same feelings. Find yourself a person that makes you feel good to talk to, somebody who doesn't try to fix you, but that will listen. Or if you have a good friend and you need something from them, like say, hey, all I want to do is just kind of like talk to you. I don't need fixing. Tell them that, and they will change that. So you are worth every single moment of discomfort to come to a peace and heal yourself. And we're here for you.
Thank you, Anne. All right, Maria, you're going to close us out today. What do you want our listeners to know today about this journey?
I think Virginie and Anne said it so eloquently. I'm not exactly sure what I can add, but I think the only thing I can think of to add is to allow positive energy into your sacred space and recognize that icky feeling on the inside when something negative is happening or something provokes you or triggers you in a way, and acknowledge it and figure out what you need to do to keep the darkness and the negative away, and invite in the positive, and just surround yourself with positive energy to lift you up, because you deserve that. And if you're having trouble doing that, reach out to your doctor, your therapist, a life coach, somebody, because if all you can feel is darkness, then you might need some help. But otherwise, I think it's great to surround yourself with positive people who support you and love you. And I think sometimes it's difficult for us to recognize that we can be the people who can receive love and respect, and we deserve it.
Yes. And some days are harder than others. We all know that. There's so many different ways that you can practice connecting to that sacred space within, without, all around you, and shift your energy, raise the vibe just a little bit. And I love that you're talking about positive vibes and positive feelings. I would say to our listeners, one good deep breath can shift you. And then add a little gratitude in there, and you have a magical elixir of raising your vibe, right? I love those orange roses. I'm so grateful that I'm able to have those in my room today and be in this beautiful, comfortable space, right? We always have something that we can pour some gratitude into. Authors, amazing humans. Thank you so much, ladies, for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. To our listeners today, I know you heard something, maybe gave you the goosebumps. Maybe you're resonating, maybe you have a question, maybe you're curious or just curious about how to continue the conversation. So just pop down into the show notes. I have all of our authors hooked up with their websites. Take a little exploration. See the awesome things that they're up to, because there are a few awesome things, and they're very generously there for you, to support you, to help you with next steps, to answer those questions and take you that next step on your journey. So please go check that out. And of course, you're all invited to our live stream book launch party. That's going to be November 4th. It's coming up soon, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to gather with all of the Sacred Spaces Volume 2 authors. We're going to be on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page for that, and I've got the link below as well. And if you're listening any time around that time, around that date, November 1st, our book will be out on Amazon, so you can hop over there and grab your copy, yes, and start your amazing journey. Ladies, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I'm super
Thank
happy that you could come and share your wisdom. Lastly, today, everybody, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.
Laura. Thank you.